that basically the feds have one constitutional responsibility, and that is pay for the health care of soldiers. And they said, you know what? That's the one thing we're going to come back on. Is that true?
It's absolutely true. And as you alluded to, Mercedes scooped this story, and she does have a solid reputation within the veterans and military community for getting it right.
I want to quote from her story, if I may, because I want to give the exact kind of detail that she has here. So, for example, where military bases are, obviously that's where soldiers and their families are. The Kingston Health Services Center, located near the base at Kingston, as well as the Royal Military College, estimates a shortfall of $2.3 million, as in that's what the doctors charge. But the federal government has just said, yeah, you know what, we're going to pay you $2.3 million less. Pembroke Regional Hospital, located near the Canadian Forces Base at Petawawa, projects a shortfall of $3.4 million. Now, I got to tell you, $2.3 million plus $3.4 million, my math says that's $5.7 million, so that's about half of what Trudeau gave to Omar Khadr. So he gave Omar Khadr $10.5 million, and he's, I guess, taking it out of the hides of soldiers and their families.
Yeah, there's some personal irony here for me. When I broke my back in a parachuting accident, I was actually medevaced to initially to the Pembroke Hospital. So I received my initial care on the drop zone from Canadian Forces medics. But you know, I think your viewers might like to understand where this came from, how this came about, and why the military doesn't treat its own soldiers and families like you see in the United States.
Yeah, I'm having trouble wrapping my head around it.
Sure.
Harjit Sajjan, I mean, I don't want to talk about the issue of stolen valor, him taking more credit than is due. Underneath it, I think he was a good man. I mean, I've never met him. He was a cop, he was a soldier, he seemed to enjoy soldiering. I think Sikhs have a tremendous tradition of soldiering. I sort of liked the look of him when he became defense minister, and I thought, finally, you got a guy who knows what it's about in that job. I feel like he's been an advocate from the Liberal Party against soldiers, instead of my hope coming true that he would be a true soldier's defense minister. It seems like all he does is give bad news to the troops, and listening to him now, he sounds like Trudeau.
Yeah, unfortunately, when he was first elected and named as defense minister, several of my friends who are senior officers that served with him, that trained with him, that in a couple of cases deployed with him, said, you know, this is a good guy, give him a chance. They don't say that anymore. And I think you can look at several older Liberal cabinet ministers that were seen as, yeah, we had differences, but they had principles. They had a standing with the Canadian public, but they've had to defend Justin Trudeau and his decision-making process, whether it's his personal failings or whether it's his policy failings. And they've had to give up their principles, or as a friend told me the other day, they get JWR'd. In other words,
you mean Jody Wilson-Raybould? She get run out of the place.
I mean, she's now a goofy acronym about what happens to you if you stand up against this prime minister. So, you know, Sajjan, putting aside again his embellishment of his personal service in Afghanistan, he gave up the moral authority, and Vance joined him. General Vance, the chief of defense staff, joined him, and they have made some of the most ridiculous decisions or supported them in the last couple of years that I've seen coming out, going back to the Chrétien years.
That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show, which is a show I do every day. I do a monologue, interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at premium.rebelnews.com.